The Defence Minister has dismissed criticism from China over the nuclear submarine arrangement with the US as immature. It's, as he revealed, Australia could see a greater presence of American troops in Australia as part of the alliance. Peter Dutton spoke exclusively to Sky News for his first interview following the announcement of the landmark AUKUS alliance. And it was done with our Washington correspondent, Annalise Nielsen, who joins us live now from the State Department. Annalise, Australia is staring down China's criticism alongside their American allies.
They are indeed, and just after the announcement of this historic agreement with the United States, standing alongside their US counterparts, the Foreign Minister and the Defence Minister weren't shying away from criticism over how the region, the Indo-Pacific, has been handled, and in particular around their focus on maintaining the rules-based order. But it was their US counterparts as well who weren't shying away from talking about China, and that's quite significant in a foreign policy context. Often it's the things that are unsaid that are the loudest, but in this context, they're very direct in exactly why this AUKUS alliance is so significant. But when we sat down with Peter Dutton earlier today before this AUSMIN meeting to talk about this alliance, he too was quite specific about the threat that the increasing aggression of China in the Indo-Pacific poses for Australia, and responded to some of the criticisms in the Global Times op-ed about this new alliance.
I think the propaganda that we've seen from a number of spokespersons or the media outlets that speak on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, frankly, I think they make the case for us. I think their comments are counterproductive and immature and frankly embarrassing. So, what does Australia want? We want sustained peace in our region. We want that stability. That's been the success of the post-war period, and we need to make sure that that endures.
Pete, this new alliance has prompted a major global shift in how the US is perceived in the rest of the world, in particular upsetting the French over the cancelling of that submarine contract. We've seen some very strong criticism from their sector, but also we've seen the continued focus on China, the threat it poses, and that's proved critical to underlying this new alliance with the US and cementing this relationship, which has been somewhat rocky in the last few months.
The world saw China's aggressive response when Australia led calls for an inquiry into the origins of COVID-19. And Beijing has seen over the past months that Australia will not back down.
And the Defence Minister suggesting that he'd be open to the US basing in Australia following the landmark nuclear submarine deal.
Pete, this was quite a significant development to come out of this AUSMIN meeting today at the State Department. That's where the Secretary of State and the Defence Secretary here meet with the Foreign Minister and the Defence Minister. This is an annual meeting, but this one has a new significance because of this alliance. And there was talk about how it's not just this nuclear submarine deal that's come out of it. There's going to be a greater presence of the United States and the UK in the region. But specifically, Peter Dutton mentioned that there would be basing in Australia. And now that's not a base, but it does mean an increased rotation of US military personnel, US Air Force personnel specifically, and increased capabilities around Australia, which could mean more equipment, if not a specific base. Now, both sides have said that they've agreed to this because they want to have greater capacity in the region.
Yesterday, Minister Dutton and I signed a statement of intent that will expand our efforts to co-develop advanced defense capabilities. And today, we endorse major force posture initiatives that will expand our access and presence in Australia.
So I do have an aspiration to make sure that we can increase the numbers of troops through the rotations. The air capability will be enhanced, our maritime capability enhanced, and certainly the force posture enhanced. And if that includes basing and includes the storage of different ordnances, I think that is in Australia's best interest.
Pete, another strong focus of this response has been a bolstering of cybersecurity. We've seen Australia suffer a number of cyber attacks, especially as tensions with China have risen. This is something the Defence Minister has also addressed in the full interview, which will air later this morning.
Yep, okay, and just a reminder there, folks, that Annalise's interview with Peter Dutton will be played later on in the program. Thanks, Annalise. We'll talk to you soon.